everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now that summer is here, I wanted to start working on some new looks, so the first thing on the agenda is a pair of watermelon shorts. To accomplish this goal, I first needed to acquire watermelon fabric, so I turned to my Fabric Printmaker 9000. You can buy these pretty much anywhere that fabric printmakers are sold. I threw in an average size watermelon and some white fabric, and then set my timer for exactly 9.5 minutes to get the perfect amount of watermelon fusion. So now I'm just going to open this up and see how our fabric turned out. So if you plan to follow along with this project, the first thing you're going to do is find a pair of shorts that you love, but don't love enough not to mutilate with your fabric scissors. I got these shorts a few years ago from Goodwill, and I'm hoping that they still fit me. Yep, still fits. So just go ahead and start cutting it apart wherever it looks right. You can use the seams as guidelines, but I wouldn't let that ruin your creativity. At this point, you can pause and take a moment to pay respects to your sacrificed clothing and begin to simmer with regret over what you've done. I personally like to skip this step, although in retrospect, I do kind of miss these shorts, even though I never really wore them. I traced around these pieces on some paper and made a ridiculous amount of alterations. At one point, I even forgot to add seam allowance and had to tape my pattern back together. But I guess better the paper than the fabric, right? I cut out my pattern with some test fabric and took this opportunity to make even more changes. No one ever said the creative process was pretty. I like to keep labeling my patterns simple, so we have F for front and B for butt. I was about to start working with my watermelon fabric, and I remembered that the Fabric Printmaker 9000 does not come with a pre-wash feature, at least not my model. Remember to wash your fabric before you start working with it, or it might shrink on you, and then you're gonna have a really bad day. And then start to wonder if those 3 donuts really made that much of a difference to your ad. I used my templates to cut out 4 pieces that look like this. I really don't like my clothing to be see-through, so I cut out the same pieces on a solid teal fabric. Once I had a new set of identical pants pieces, I had to decide if I wanted to see the solid color when I rolled my pants up, or more watermelons. And no joke guys, I mulled over this for a solid hour. I figured I might as well make these the most watermelon shorts I've ever seen. After all, I did use a whole watermelon to make them. This required me to cut off the bottom of the shorts and replace them with the watermelon fabric. This process will make sense later, I promise. Now I just need to take these over to my machine and get to sewing. Excuse me. Can I have my chair? Can I have the chair, Lou? Oh, yep, that's the strap. If I just sit, will you? Okay. Alright everyone, this is something I just learned about my new machine. And by new, I mean I've had it for like over a year. What? It just winds it? What? Now I'm about to give a very vague description of my sewing process. I sewed the 2 front pieces together, and then the 2 back pieces together, and then I sewed the front pieces to the back pieces. I needed to repeat all the same steps for the outside of my shorts, so here are some clips that are very sped up of that process. Then I whipped out my favorite tool and seam ripped the sides of my shorts. Which reminds me, I saw this mug and it hits really close to home, so a part of me is just ready to click purchase. Anyways, literally right after I sewed up the sides, I realized I forgot to add the pockets. Not only did I forget to add the pockets, but I also forgot to make the pockets. So here's a quick clip of me making them. Am I the only person that irons on the floor? I ironed my pocket pieces and then sewed the top edge by rolling the fabric over twice. I determined the placement of my pockets by measuring exactly 1 purple pen cap length from the top of my pants. In order to maximize cargo space, I stitched these to my shorts as close to the edge of the pocket as possible. I sewed up the sides again, and I'm not going to show that part because I already did that earlier. Next, I sandwiched the 2 pairs of shorts together to make a significantly more sturdy and less see-through piece of clothing. These were attached by sewing around each of the leg holes. For the waistband, I cut out a rectangular piece of fabric that was long enough to fit around my waist after consuming 3 donuts and a vanilla latte. I cut out an identical piece of interfacing and ironed them together to look like this. I left a 3-inch slit on the side of my shorts for a zipper, but the only one that I could find in my stash that matched was this one. So I think that we're going to need to chop just a little bit off the top. I sewed the zipper to the outside layer of the fabric and then realized that I forgot to add back pockets. So I quickly made 2 back pocket pieces and top stitched them onto the back of my pants. These pockets turned out kind of small and less functional than I intended, and kind of reminded me of the time that I lost a smartphone to the toilet bowl. With the pockets attached, I could now finish stitching the liner to the zipper. I did this by hand so that the stitches would not be visible from the outside. Not that this zipper is super invisible anyways. I mean, just look at that thing. After trimming my zipper antennas to a more reasonable length, I pinned the waistband in place. I sewed the waistband to the shorts and then also added some edge stitching along the top. I stitched back and forth over the zipper a few times to avoid something like this from happening. Good damn. The last thing to do was add some belt loops as a finishing touch. I created my own bias tape, so I ended up with a long skinny piece of fabric. I cut 5 post-it note length pieces and then stitched it to my pants where you would typically find belt loops. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Here are a few shots of me professionally modeling my finished shorts. I make sewing videos, DIYs, and tutorials on this channel, and I hope to see you for the next one. Bye!